Welcome, my dear listener, to another episode of Wishcrafting. And today's episode is a special one. This is our final wishing moon of the year, the last lunar window of 2025, where the veil of possibility feels thin, shimmering, and alive. And this moon? She rises bright and close because this is the final wishing moon and a supermoon in Gemini happening on December 4th at 6:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's so much happening in the cosmic soup for the last part of this year, so let's head on over to the cosmic cauldron and see what magic is bubbling up. We have a lot to cover for the very last bit of this calendar year. But before we step into the astrology, let's take a moment and honor the traditional names carried by the Native Americans for this moon, because names hold memory and power. December's full moon is widely known as the cold moon, a Mohawk name that reflects the reality of early winter. The first real grip of frost, the stillness, the sharpness of cold air settling over the land like a blanket. Some tribes called this moon the Long Night Moon, a Mohician name because it rises closest to the Winter Solstice during the longest nights of the year. Long nights for dreaming, long nights for magic, long nights for listening. These names remind us that winter is not merely stillness, but a gathering place. A place where the moon shines longer, brighter, and more clearly on us all. And this year, this cold, long night moon is a supermoon, which means that she is physically, literally, closer to Earth. So we see her bigger. See her more, feel her more, hear her more. And as we do, we're able to tune into ourselves that much more acutely as well. So let's talk about why. What is this full moon in Gemini, and what do you need to know? Well, as this final wishing moon rises in Gemini, the mutable air sign of the mind, we can turn our consciousness to communication, connection, curiosity, cleverness, and solutions. November's full moon was in Taurus. And if Taurus tends the hearth, Gemini leaves the house entirely, wrapping up in a coat to walk the neighborhood, swap stories, share ideas, and check on the community. This full moon in Gemini wants movement. Not necessarily physical movement, but mental, social, energetic movement. This moon, she asks questions. She opens doors. She starts conversations. And here's the why in the astrology. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so we're dealing with ideas, language, and the way we think and speak our desires into the world. As a supermoon, her influence is magnified, so expect sharper intuition, clearer downloads, and more obvious nudges from the universe. The full moon reveals and releases are also going to be obvious, and under Gemini, this can show up through honest conversations, sudden clarity, or finally finding words for something you've struggled to articulate all year. And of course, that's not exhaustive. This energy will show up differently for everyone. But this supermoon, she is not acting alone, which makes it such a big deal. This full Gemini supermoon is rising against the backdrop of a much bigger cosmic story. Because just a few weeks before this moon, on November 7th, Uranus, the planet of disruption, innovation, rebellion, and technology, slipped backwards from Gemini into Taurus for the final time. To understand this moment, we have to zoom out just a little. Uranus spends 7 years in each sign. So since May of 2018, it's been in Taurus, a cycle we haven't seen since the 1930s. Uranus' 7-year journey through Taurus from 2018 to now has completely rewritten our relationship to work, money, food systems, and the pace of daily life. In that time period, 2018 to now, we've gone largely cashless, digital commerce has exploded, the pandemic fundamentally restructured work culture, hustle culture got punched in the nose and cracked wide open, remote work, flexible schedules, and gig economies became normalized, and finally, AI is shifting labor in ways that we are only beginning to grasp. All of these are massive changes. But here's the thing. Uranus in Taurus is a mismatch. Taurus wants slow, it wants steady, and it wants reliable processes. Uranus wants freedom and revolution. So, the past 7 years have carried a strange push-pull. Progress versus regression. Innovation versus tradition. Liberation versus clinging to the way things were. We've seen cultural polarization, economic strain, and a collective fear of instability. And now, as Uranus spends its final moments in Taurus, this Gemini supermoon shines its light on what remains unresolved, helping us ask questions like, what's not working anymore? What systems are cracking? Where do we need new ideas, new solutions, and new voices? And what needs communication instead of silence? You see, my lovely, lovely listener, this moon is a messenger whispering in our ear and telling us that transition is here and not to look away. This wishing moon is a big finale. And this final movement of Uranus into a new sign is the final end cap to a year that has been jam-packed with paradigm-shifting planetary movements. All of this, the transits throughout the year, as well as the celestial soup of December, leads us to the final turning point of the year, the solstice. The winter solstice arrives on Sunday, December 21st, 2025, at 10:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is only 17 days after the Gemini supermoon. You might be thinking, 17 days, why did she have to specify that? Well, there's a reason. Spiritually, the number 17 is often associated with victory, divine purpose, and the unfolding of spiritual wisdom. In biblical and numerological traditions, it carries the energy of triumph after trial, of stepping into one's true path. Biblically, 17 symbolizes overcoming. Jesus' resurrection is said to have occurred on the 17th of Nisan, and the Great Flood is said to have ended on the 17th day of the 7th month, both moments of renewal and new beginnings. The number also blends a 7, which represents spiritual perfection, and a 10, which represents completion, creating an image of perfected purpose. In Jewish mysticism, 17 corresponds to the Hebrew word tov, meaning goodness. It reflects both the seen and unseen forms of good in life. In numerology, 17 is the union of 1, which represents the self and initiation, and 7, which represents inner knowing and spiritual insight. Together, they point to a path of intuitive wisdom, higher purpose, and alignment. Though, this number can also reveal resistance if one is avoiding their spiritual calling and thus alignment. So perhaps now you can see why I think it's interesting that the winter solstice is coming 17 days after the last supermoon of 2025. It truly feels like a portent of what we're stepping into in the next calendar year in 2026. And like a grand portal, a door into our own personal alignment and finding our place, finding our resistance, questioning what resistance even means to us. What a spiritual calling, a higher purpose. What is our purpose? How do we feel about purpose? Asking all of these questions. This is perfect for now. And the cosmic soup, the cosmic cauldron, it's bubbling over with that possibility for you, me, for all of us, amplified by the energy of the Gemini full moon. That Gemini full moon just shining a floodlight into all of these places and giving us this really, truly grand, divine opportunity. The solstice is a gate all on its own, and we'll get to that in just a second. But this entire year, astrologically, has been initiation over initiation over initiation over initiation. We have gone into the underworld and we're at the final gate, just like Inanna, shedding this and shedding that, and we're about to be reborn. We're about to be resurrected into a new year, into a new version of ourselves. And there truly has not been a year in our lifetime like 2025 when it comes to cosmic transits and movement. So before it is over and we step into a new calendar year, I want to urge you to do some reflection on these themes and how they're showing up in your life. And as you reflect, think of the portal of the solstice and what that might look like for you in your life and your path. You may or may not know what exactly the solstice is, or you might. Let's touch on it really briefly for those who don't know. The solstice is the moment when the sun reaches the Tropic of Capricorn. The winter solstice is the solstice that happens on December 21st. It's the shortest day and the longest night in the northern hemisphere, and the official beginning of winter in the northern hemisphere. It's the longest day and the shortest night in the southern hemisphere, and the official beginning of summer there. The word solstice comes from sol, meaning sun, and sister, meaning to stand still. And that's exactly how it looks from Earth. The sun's arc grows lower and lower and lower in the sky, and then for a few days seems to just pause, to hover, to hold its breath. And in many cultures, ancient and modern, that pause is the rebirth of the sun, the moment that light begins to return. At least for us here celebrating the winter solstice, that's how we view it. The light begins to return. Daylight begins increasing again, starting December 21st, climbing slowly towards June's longest day. And this is the cycle. The inhale, the exhale, a story as old as time itself. And while we celebrate winter's arrival, the southern hemisphere is ushering in the summertime, their longest day, the height of light. So the astrology remains the same, but the seasonal expression shifts, which is, for me, a reminder that magic and meaning are deeply relational. The same transit can feel like a seed or a harvest, depending on where your feet meet the ground. This Gemini wishing moon is the precursor to this solstice and the last breath before this grand cosmic pause. If the moon on December 4th is asking us, what do you want to say? Then the solstice on the 21st is asking us, what do you want to keep? This year's solstice, Yule 2025, does not come with any grand, big, explosive transits, not in the obvious sense, but it does carry a distinct feeling, a specific hush, a threshold. This Yule marks a turning point in a storyline that began in 2024 and will culminate in 2026. It's part of a much longer transformation shaped by our outer planets and shifting collective cycles. Here's the heart of this Yule energy as I see it. This Yule is overwhelmingly full of transition and reflection. It's a doorway moment, a place where the year gathers itself and begins to loosen its grip. It's a time to review, to honor, and to understand what 2025 has taught and brought you. Then it's time for shedding and release. Winter itself strips the world down to its essence. Astrologically, we're shedding old beliefs, we're shedding outdated structures, and we're shedding inner scaffolding that can't support our next chapter. And then we move into rebirth and renewal. Just as the sun is reborn, our inner light resets as well. This is a subtle renewal. It's not fireworks, but it is a spark rekindled. All of this astrological movement turns Yule into a moment of reorientation, a chance to feel into the shifts before they intensify in 2026. And I don't mean intensify like cosmically, I mean intensify like we get to go and explore the changes that we are bringing into this new year. And woven through all of this is a sense that the ground beneath us itself, the ground, the earth, the world itself is preparing for new foundations. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, this energy is winter-coated with stillness, introspection, rest, and reset. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, it expresses through summer, expansion, illumination, growth, and outward motion. We share this astrology, but the season and the land changes the magic for us. So wherever you are, ask yourself, what is the light doing where I stand? What is the land showing me? How does the energy of this moon feel in my body? And what might this season want from me? Quite frankly, the December wishing moon is teaching us to find fluidity from a grounded sense of self. It's teaching us that magic is never one size fits all. It's responsible, it's local, and it's alive. In Greek myth, the moon is Selene, she who drives her silver chariot across the sky, illuminating the waiting world. Under a Gemini moon, Selene becomes a storyteller, a keeper of crossroads, a flickering lantern held in two hands, holding duality, as Gemini tends to do. This moon holds the duality of light and shadow, of hope and fear, of words spoken and words swallowed. She reminds us that our words have power, and when we speak with intention, it becomes spell work. So questions you could ask yourself that you could wishcraft for yourself for this wishing moon. And if you don't know how to do the wishing moon ritual, please go check back to my very first wishing moon episode where I walk you through exactly what to do a wishing moon ritual for yourself on the wishing moon day itself, which is December 4th. It's very simple, very accessible. But some directions you might take with your wishes are, I wish for clarity in my conversations. I wish to speak my truth with softness and power. I wish for creative ideas to flow through me with ease. I wish for community, connection, and collective support. I wish for the courage to ask for what I need. It's big, it's beautiful, it's dualistic, it is powerful. That is our final wishing moon of 2025 and a little bit of the astro forecast for this year's Yule. Overall, this supermoon is setting us up to ask questions, to go to the crossroads of our soul, to listen to the whispers coming in on the wind, and to prepare ourselves for the portal that is the solstice. This moon is opening that door for Yule and ushering us into stillness, into clarity, and into the quiet bravery of naming what we want as the year comes to a close. There's literally no time like this moon to name exactly what you want. This moon is reminding you that your voice matters, that your ideas matter, that your movement on those ideas matter, and that you are powerful, that your wishes matter, your heart and its power matters. So, light your candles, speak your truths, and cast your wishes into the winter night, and let the returning light carry them home. That's all I have for you for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to find more of my work or find how to get in contact with me, all of that is in the show notes. My name is Wishamaya. Until next time, don't forget to keep your roots deep and your dreams wild.